The spiritual internet loves to tell you to trust your intuition. You'll hear, follow your gut, or trust the inner guidance, or your heart knows. Generally speaking, I think that advice is terrible for most people. Not because intuition isn't real, it's exceptionally real, but because the vast majority of what people are calling intuition is not actually intuition. It's craving and aversion. It's addiction wearing spiritual clothes. And the fact that we as a spiritual community can't really call it out or say it out loud is creating a lot of destructive habits. It's why we stay stuck for so many years. I myself have spent over 12,000 hours meditating, over 130 days in complete silence, strewn over a dozen meditation retreats. What I found in the deepest recesses of my psyche, it forced me to rethink and what I think intuition is, when I think it can be trusted, and why I think most people can't rely on it at this stage. Okay, let me paint a picture that I think most people will recognize, right? Maybe you have a friend that was in a very stable relationship, a good relationship, a decent relationship, nothing really wrong. And then they leave it because they felt called to. They say, my intuition told me that this wasn't aligned anymore. They make a whole post about it, their spiritual friend validated, you're so brave, you're following your truth. And 6 months later, they're in the same dynamic with someone else, feeling that restlessness, wanting to leave because again, it just doesn't feel good. Okay, was that intuition or was that just discomfort or aversion towards intimacy disguised as spiritual guidance? Or how about this? I can personally relate. Someone quits their full-time job to go become a healer. No savings, no plan, no clients, and they're saying, the universe will provide. I feel it in my bones. 2 years later, they're in debt. They're burning out. They're blaming the world, saying that it just doesn't see their gifts. Was that a calling? Or was it a aversion towards structure and discipline? Again, disguised as spiritual guidance. The point here is not that those decisions weren't actually true for those people. They very might well have been. The only point I'm making is that this, I feel it, I know it, is not proof. It's not certainty that what you're hearing is intuition. Because let's be honest, craving feels certain too. I'm feeling that donut right now. You don't need the donut, and yet it feels like a calling. It feels like the natural next step. The same with aversion. Aversion, this hatred towards things, this resistance, also feels like certainty. I don't want to sit in meditation this morning. And then we fill in the blank because it's not aligned, as opposed to because I'm feeling lazy and I want to scroll on my phone. Ego is brilliant, top-notch at justifying whatever it wants in the moment. Here's the core issue as I see it. People use the word my intuition. They own the intuition. There's nothing wrong with saying my intuition as just a general way to say it, but it goes sideways the moment that we identify with it. We think that we are the thinker. I am the one doing the intuiting. Because y'all, the moment it's my intuition, it's filtered through all of my conditioning patterns, all of my bullshit, my desires, my fears, my unresolved traumas. Everything that I want and everything that I'm running from gets layered on top of whatever signal was actually there, such that by the time it reaches conscious awareness, one can't be sure if what they're receiving is actually divine guidance or just the mind's preferences. That's not a moral failure, it's just how the unpurifying mind works. The signal is real, but the receiver is distorted. The signal gets noisy, patchy, staticky. All the spiritual people will say that this world is crazy, the conditioning patterns are crazy, and yet we're unable to say to ourselves, honestly, holy shit, I might be even more conditioned than I'm already leading myself to believe. So much addiction. And we can just talk it away if we think that we're more enlightened than we are. So for me, the question isn't, does intuition exist? It does, it obviously does. Everyone knows that. Rather, the question is, how clean is your receiver? I wanna go somewhere uncomfortable with this because I think it'll make the point undeniable. The suicide bomber thinks that they're doing God's work. They feel it with absolute certainty. They very well could call it intuition. All of the things align perfectly for me to get into a plane and dive bomb it into X, Y, or Z. Some of the most evil people on the planet are probably using this idea of I'm following divine guidance to masquerade as poke. Obviously, these are extreme examples, but the mechanism is identical within you and me. A mind that is full of conditioning that ideologies, fears, angers, righteousness is a mind that cannot be trusted. All this should terrify you. Not because you yourself are going to be a suicide bomber, hopefully not, but because it proves that that bone level feeling of guidance can be generated by a completely deluded mind. And we don't know whether we're deluded or not. That's the whole point of I just know is not a reliable compass if the compass hasn't been calibrated. So here's the honest question that you need to ask yourself every single time you think you're receiving intuitive. It requires brutal self-honesty. Like no one can really tell the truth for you. Is this a craving or is this a call? Is this a genuine pull towards growth or expansion or service? Or is it just a desire for sensations? Here's how I tell the difference, and it's not foolproof. It has urgency behind it. It's got fear in the background. It says, if you don't do this now, you're gonna lose your win. This is your chance. It creates pressure, it creates anxiety. With the calling, on the other hand, has patience. It doesn't panic. It shows up again and again and again. Without rush. It doesn't need you to act this second, per se, because it always has tomorrow, because there's always a way to rewrite the script. So there's no scarcity mode in a calling. Craving is very particular about the outcome. It's got a whole plan built out about exactly which step happens when in order to manifest a very specific and, let's be honest, conditioned result. Right partner has to look exactly this way. The career has to pay this much. Calling, on the other hand, is specific about the outcome, but it completely wide open in terms of the plan for which that manifests. It just trusts the flow. It trusts the timing of it all. And then lastly, craving gets louder when you sit. Like the more you pay attention to the craving, the more agitated it becomes. It wants you to stop examining it and go do the damn thing already. Calling is interesting because it actually gets softer the more you pay attention to it. It's not because the guidance is actually going away, but rather it knows that you're listening. And so it knows that it doesn't have to scream. Again, compare that to craving, where the ego is just trying to ramp up its salesman tactics to get you to go do. To give you an example of all this within my own life. Years ago when I was doing psychedelics, I had this rule for myself. The rule was, I am not allowed to trip again unless I'm integrated the previous lesson. And that worked for a while, where I would take it and I would wait a few months and take it again. Over time, I started to create excuses more and more to take it more often. I'd say, I've integrated the lesson. I think mushrooms this weekend ought to sound good. I don't know when the actual moment was that it flipped for me, but there was this dawning realization that I had been lying to myself. That what I was saying was not, oh, I want to be more spiritual or heal my wounds, but really, I just want to get high. I just like expanding my state of consciousness. And frankly, it's a lot of work to do that via meditation, yoga, and prayer. If I had actually sat with it and I dropped into what would my true intuition was, it would have said to me, hey, Ethan, cool it. You don't actually need the psychedelics at all. And when I realized that, I was like, fuck, I've been lying to myself this whole time. To summarize, all right, when can you trust your intuition? You can trust your intuition when the selfishness in the system has gone. And again, no one's going to be able to tell you for you that the selfishness is gone. It has to be a daily work. When I sit in meditation every single day, one of the deepest prayers that I hold is like, let me not fool myself. Please, 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 please. I'm so tired of fooling myself. It leads to nothing but suffering and misery in my life. And that level of humility, or the desire to prostrate at the feet of God and just say, please clear all of the selfishness so that I can actually trust what I'm hearing, that I can be a vessel of light. That's it. That's the whole answer. Just no more selfishness. And that's the hardest one, because it means that most of us, myself included, are not there yet. There's still more karma in the text, still sins that need to get purged from the body-mind system. Okay, what does purging oneself of selfishness actually mean? It means that whatever guidance is coming through, it is not in the slightest bit filtered through, what are other people gonna think? How is this gonna benefit me? Or even, how does this make me feel? If when Jesus was being shown of his crucifixion, and he had said, I don't think this is guidance because it doesn't make me feel good. Does that make any sense? This kind of purity, this type of humility does not come from a one-off plant medicine retreat. It doesn't come from an Instagram bio. It doesn't come from just saying you're going to do the thing. It comes from genuine, root-level operating system desire to serve the highest good, even at the expense of what I want. And it's all good because what you want is conditioned. What you want has been implanted in you by society, and it's not what you actually want. So maybe stepping over the line, but I'm going to say that what you want actually is to be at peace. And getting at peace, feeling at peace is only possible. I promise. You don't have to take my word, but I promise. Being at peace is only possible when we are not selfish anymore. All of this means slow, steady work on meditation cushion, on the daily habits that you're showing up, training the mind to let go of cravings and aversions. That simple. And that's what meditation actually is the purification itself of the scattered and lusty mind. So if you want to start that practice of meditation, not just think about it, there's a link below, which will take you to a 40-minute meditation audio, completely free. It's going to teach you how to start reverting attention back inward so that you can learn what the mind-body system is doing. Now, it's not going to give you intuition, but it is the very first step in cleaning the mind so that intuition becomes bright as day, as obvious as the sky. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Genuinely helpful. See you in the next one.